Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. Let's get to it. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Todd Thams. Todd, thank you for being here.
Aaron, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. I've never done this, but we're going to do a second intro right now because this is something I was looking forward to, and I'm going to do a second intro. They're both going to be in the episode, so all of you listeners are going to have to bear with me for 10 seconds. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, the father of Haley. Haley, I know you're listening to this, and to all of our listeners, this is a great time for me, and I think Todd would agree that this will give him a moment of parental pride to say thank you to Haley, who is listening to this, editing this, and going to publish this, for all the work that she's done to get the podcast and the whole Keep Hustling movement to where it is today. So I wanted to start with that, Todd. I apologize, but I know I dream of one of my kids stealing my thunder one day. So,
well, I don't think Haley's stealing my thunder, but I do know how much she enjoys, editing your stuff, and she shares some of the stuff that you do with your kids. And from what she tells me, you've got a great family, great setup. She enjoys working with you. I think the way you go about business is probably the right way of doing things and how you interact with her. And I've heard nothing but good, positive feedback. And for that, I appreciate you.
Oh, you're the best. Okay, so now we can jump into the. All right. Now we can jump into this. There's a lot I want to talk to you about because obviously I know you a little bit, but what I've been trying to do recently on the podcast is not just dive into the upbringing of our guests, but kind of look at the evolution of their careers, those who have had, I don't want to say more mature careers or make you feel old in any way, but longer careers and careers that have evolved, and get into kind of how that happens and how a person makes the decision to pivot. Now, in your career, looking at your bio, and as I say in every episode, I encourage our listeners to spend the 30 seconds and read the bio before they jump on. You were in an industry, you were successful in an industry, and then you decided to pivot within that industry. It happens to be the insurance industry that I'm in. But what is that like when you make that decision, or when you're contemplating the next step or the next stage, when you have what some would call comfort? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what you're referring to is, in my 20-year career, I started out as a producer with no book of business. I had to grow and build my own. And then we acquired my family's insurance business in 2012. It provided us a great, meaningful lifestyle. And then we sold it in 2022. It was 89 years old. And I'd been working on ModAdvisor and kind of direct work comp at that time. And if you're asking, is the decision easy? There was a growing level of frustration that I had every single day going into work, dealing with things that I cannot change. And it might as well be a splinter under your fingernail, or something that just keeps, the fly in the room that just keeps buzzing by your head. And as time went on, I got more and more aggravated. And really what I wanted to do is here I am in rural Western Iowa in a very small town, and the type of business and things that I want to write and go after, it's increasingly hard because we don't have an office in a city. We had limited resources, and I couldn't change any of that, no matter how hard I tried. You can't change the clientele in a town of 8,000 who are great people, but if they want to walk in your office and park 5 foot from the front door and walk in your office and take a half an hour of your secretary's time, you can't change that. It is much more difficult in the city to go somewhere and go up 51 floors and talk to your insurance agent. And so walk in traffic, people, we couldn't change it. And
cash payers.
Yeah, cash payers.
We don't have any of those. We've never had any of those. I talk to people in the industry. It's whatever. I can't imagine that exists. But I want to ask you about that. But I want to ask you a question about that moment, because it's not just the business that you were in, but it's interesting because most people would have made that decision earlier than you did, right? You've been in the industry now for 20 years, right? Did I make that up? 20 years.
20 years.
20 years. And this happened 2 years ago. So you're more than 15 years into a career. You don't decide to leave the industry, but it's just interesting to me because it's almost like you felt at that point that your hustle, as we say here, was being stifled. And most people 15 years in would have just said, but I have a nice lifestyle. So,
It's funny. We had a nice lifestyle, and I know, the keep hustling. I am hustling harder today than I did 10 years ago.
I imagine so.
Building software, getting it off the ground, fundraising, hiring people, doing things that I don't know what I'm doing necessarily all the time. It's going to be one of the most rewarding journeys when I look back at the end, the people, the support, the people who've surrounded us and picked us up and helped us. But this is by far the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
So again, and can I ask you a question? Was it predictable?
Did I think it was going to be this hard? No.
But did you think it was going to be harder than what you were doing?
No.
Really?
I'm a kind of guy that I jump first, then look and see where I'm going. I'm high risk on. I thought, and we talk about hard, I'm having a lot of fun.
Well, I want to get to that. It's different. But the point I'm making is I would have thought that you would say one of the decisions, obviously not the primary driver of that decision, of the decision that you're making, but one of the things that is predictable as an outcome is you're going from comfort lifestyle to startup and trying to build something. Inherently, that means that the nerves, the financial stability,
Oh yeah.
So it's just interesting that you say that you didn't even think about that, because that's nuts, but I love it.
I didn't think it'd be this hard. I was really excited. We got picked up. We launched our first product with ModAdvisor in 2021. And I look back and we were just in our infancy with what we had and what we were doing. And we got picked up by Broker Tech Ventures. And interestingly enough, the podcast yesterday, the article dropped that we had in Rough Notes. Rough Notes is a magazine that you and I have read for many years, and they actually featured us in their Broker Tech Venture Spotlight.
I love that.
Which is super exciting, because as a small town guy in rural Western Iowa that's been reading that magazine for 20 years, to have an article in it is absolutely bananas.
It's funny. You can leave the insurance agent side, but you never leave the insurance nerd side.
No, I love the insurance.
You know what I mean? It's like
that magazine, the case studies and the court lawsuits I just went down a rabbit hole.
It's hilarious because I actually brought an issue. Was it last issue? Something home. Because I was just in the middle and I wanted to, there was an article in that I didn't get to read that I wanted to read. And my wife, who's a much more avid reader than I am, I barely read, she's like, this is horrible. This is just boring. And I said, I actually find it fascinating. I actually read this every time it comes out.
Yes.
Basically cover to cover. And I think that your magazines that talk about whatever, fiction serial that you're reading about divorce, axe murders, and whatever is boring. So it's one of the things that, I don't often talk on the podcast about the beauty of the insurance industry, but when you meet someone who's decided to really make it their career, most of us really love it. There's something about insurance that just sucks you in as a black hole that never lets you out. So I appreciate you saying that, but I just want to, you hit on something that is really important, and I think super important to the listeners, and that is you're working harder than you did before, yet you are enjoying it more. And I think that when people think about how they should evaluate hustling or what their approach to hustling should be or things like that, very often the understanding that it's going to be harder leads them to believe that their life is going to be worse or more painful or whatever. And yet you used words like fun, excitement, enjoyable, energy.
Yeah.
So take us through that and kind of the mindset and what you would say to someone who's afraid to take the leap because they think it's going to be hard, not impossible, but hard.
Well, I think it's the phrase escapes me, pick your pain, right? You can sit in an office all day and be unhappy about that. You can get terminated, from your position at 65 years old. I want to control my own destiny, and I'm okay working hard or harder to control my own destiny and be in control of the things that I can control. And I think that's the same thing that what's amazing now as a father of 3 kids who are grown, they're bringing that same work ethic into their own businesses. And as a matter of fact, 2 of my daughters, they own their own companies. You work with Haley, who owns her own marketing company now. And my middle daughter and her husband, right out of college, bought a home turf training center, and they're working harder than ever.
1 second. I'm sorry. I'm not interrupting the hard work ethic, but I'm from New York City.
Yeah.
What is a home turf training center?
Okay. So they live in
I'm sorry to the listeners who know what this is.
Home Turf Training Center. It's in Ashland, Ohio. Imagine you have these in New York. You probably don't. They have a commercial building with probably 5 soccer fields inside of it. So when you want to play soccer in December, or you want to throw baseballs, or you want to use
home turf training. I got it. I thought this meant they go to your home and it has to do with something turf. Got it. Okay.
No,
I got it. Love that. Okay. Sorry. So anyway, your 2 daughters, they've taken on by the way, and some of them were part of our photo shoot for the Keep Hustling merch brand, keephustlingshop.com.
One of them, but
so we really appreciate that. So we appreciate the whole fam, basically.
They appreciate you too. They're great girls. But to your point, they're working hard. Like the other day, the website goes down for one of my daughters. She can't whine and complain about it. She just has to get in there and she's like, I got to go in and I got to fix it. I got to redo it. We lost it. It is what it is. And they put forth the effort, but they love what they do. And so I don't know. I've never spent a day doing a lot of things that I don't want to do and I'm unhappy about. And if I am unhappy, we're going to pivot and do something else.
Do you think that I don't know. How old are they? I don't know. It's not, you're not supposed to ask
daughters,
a lady their
23,
age.
20, and 19.
Okay. So their upbringing was not when you were in startup mode. You started the company when they were grown.
So you mean the startup of ModAdvisor?
Yeah.
So let's back up here. I was starting to build a book of business for Thams Agency when all of my kids were born. Those, if you really want to go back, I used to work at Arby's restaurants. I left a 6-figure job.
We have the beef.
We have the beef. We have the meats. I think it is.
We have the meats. Sorry, we have the meats. Shoot.
I left a 6-figure job in Minneapolis to go back and work at our family business, and I took a 70% pay cut. And that doesn't last very long. And if the kids want to eat, we have to go out and hustle, and we have to find clients, and we have to sell. And there's no one that's going to sell for you. There's no magic button. There is no easy path. You have to not only get licensed, but then learn what you sell. You've got to make your calls. You've got to, and this is, I used to go out and drive around, dropping off my car, making sales calls, promotion.
Dodging cows.
There you go.
Cattle.
There's not that many cows. I know what you think of Iowans, but they put cows in a pen. They're not walking around down the road.
Whatever. I don't know. It's interesting you say that because I have a memory when I was starting in the business I realized that it was a setup afterwards, which is one of the things that I really appreciated about my father. He should rest in peace. But my father once had my sales numbers in front of him, and he just hounded me like 3 years into being in the business. Where are the numbers? And I finally, because it was a setup, and I didn't realize that this was his goal, I just went bonkers. I'm like, this business is never going to work. You sell a product that none of my peers want to buy. This is so stupid. You're putting the pressure on me. You see the calls I make. You see the meetings I go to, the networking events, and this is just terrible. And now you're hounding me with these numbers, and you know that the numbers don't exist. And he's like, yeah, I just want to see if you're going to stay at it. They will come around. And as you know, with insurance, it's time.
Yeah.
And it's just, so the reason why I was getting to that is you talk about the pride of your daughters seeing your work ethic, but I also think it's awesome that like you and 2 of your kids are kind of like startuppers together. Like nobody gets that. Who gets
awesome.
that?
Yeah.
Not in the same business. It's not like you started a business together, but it's like, I imagine that there could be a conversation Thanksgiving 2 years ago or a year ago, when they were just getting started, whatever, 2 years ago, whatever it was in their 2 businesses, where you guys are like bonding over the struggles. And that's amazing.
We talk all the time. And they talk to my wife more than me, depending upon
if
they need emotional support or they need business support. But it's, how do I send an email? What do I do about this?
I've heard that she's much more fun than you. Is that true?
Haley or my wife?
No, Haley for sure, but I just mean your wife. I heard that she's much more fun than you. Is that true?
She's
okay.
A good time.
Sure. Haley, make sure you cut this for your mother. You're welcome. I got your back right before Christmas. But, no, I just, there's something that so many people wouldn't take the leap, wouldn't do it. You did it. And how many people live their life with the thorn in their finger, the splinter in their finger, or it's even worse, it's under their foot. And every day they step on it. But yet they don't do it. They won't keep hustling. You just do it.
Yeah, pick your
and that doesn't mean do something stupid, and that doesn't mean don't have a plan. That's not what. And it's come up before on the show. That's not what I'm saying. But you had a plan. You had an idea. It was a good idea. You knew the industry. and you just had enough of the splinter. So I find that amazing.
Thank you.
Was it something that was churning in you for a long time?
The story I tell everybody was, we used the other software in the marketplace at Thams Agency for a number of years. And I think I was talking with people like Carruthers, and we were getting our workers' compensation or our renewals of that software. And here I am, like, it's 2020, and I want to be a very technology-oriented company. I have been touting for years the way my kids are going to buy insurance is not the same way that I bought insurance or my parents bought insurance. And we're seeing how quickly the industry is moving right now. And here we've got, Applied, CSR 24, all these cool things that we're using to help write business. And I'm out delivering Excel reports that look like they're from 2003 saying, we're the insurance agent that can help you with your business. And I got frustrated. And I think it was a Saturday night. I had some wine and I said, I've had enough of this. I'm going to go build my own product and I'm going to change an industry. And I went off and I started doing that. And that was in 2020. 9 months later, 10 months later, we had the version of our product, I think. And this is in rough notes, but one of our first users, believe it or not, was Interwest Insurance Company, a top 100 insurance broker out of California. They bought our software and they said, Todd, we're going to help you make it better. It needs a lot of work. And they were on me. And I'm telling you what, the software that I built, it's not for me, it's for our users. I want the feedback. I don't take negative feedback personally. You're telling me you want something that makes it work in a better way for you to sell to your clients while you're buying from me, and all I have to do is give you that. I'm going to do that.
And by the way, I'll make more money that way.
They'll make
an ancillary benefit.
They have been a great partner. And so with that, I think there was probably some help there getting into Broker Tech Ventures. And then in 2022, after we left Broker Tech Ventures, my wife and I were contemplating selling Thams Agency at that point in time. And we just took a look at the future. Our kids had all left the nest. They weren't coming back to Denison.
It was a lonely place with no kids. It's just you and the sheep.
A home is a lonely place with no kids.
It's just you with the sheep. I know. I hear. There's nobody to herd the cattle and bring in the eggs from the coop. I got you. I got you, Todd.
I think we need to have you come out to Iowa, Aaron, and we'll go to Des Moines and then we'll go to a small farm.
See, my goal is to come to Iowa, and there's Caitlin Clark. Boom, right there. Bam. There she is, like walking down the street.
I think she's in Indiana right now.
And then but she could come home, right? And then she could be walking down, and then she could be walking down the street, and then that's how I envision it.
Crazy what she's done for women's basketball. I mean, just crazy.
I'll tell you, and this is good. This is a good segment for the podcast. I think that I remember when I was a kid. I remember when the WNBA was founded, right? I mean, like, it was really the Liberty and the Houston Comets when I was a kid were, like, I think in the first finals, if I believe. Teresa Weatherspoon was on the Liberty, and who was on the? There were a couple people I don't remember. The Houston team beat them, I think, in that first championship. I remember being there in the Garden because, like, it was a thing, and it was like 90. It was like 90% empty. Like, it was just not a thing. And I think that, one of the, I don't get political on the show, but one of the things that we've gotten in this generation is that everybody can have a voice. And some people use that negatively, some people use that positively. And everyone can have rights, and we can talk about, I don't want to get in the weeds on what the right should be or who decides or what, but look at what these people did. And then and look what you did for the other people in the league. Imagine the people, I'll say it this way, imagine the people that were in the first few years of the WNBA sitting courtside at a game when the arenas are sold out now because of her.
She's like a rising tide. She just lifts everything.
And that should be everyone's goal, right? Everyone's goal in whatever they do, whatever they choose to do, should be to raise those around them. And she has an incredible platform, and I hope that she continues. But maybe if I come to Iowa, we'll try to arrange a meeting or something. And by the way, if you're listening, we'd love to have you on the podcast. We've tried to reach out a few times. Haley keeps saying she's going to deliver, so we're waiting to hear that. What has been the hardest part of starting a business the way you did?
The hardest part of starting ModAdvisor was probably it occurred over the last year. Fundraising for your company is extremely hard. We had amazing growth over the last 12 months. That growth came with a lot of expense, and just trying to, it's kind of a catch-22. Investors want sales. So you've got sales, but maybe you don't have enough sales. Your product isn't fully baked, so they want it to be a little bit better than what it is. You're pitching investors who don't understand what your product is. And I was at an event the other day, and I said, I tried to go outside of the industry when I was fundraising to all of these ventures and stuff like that. And in hindsight, I did it the wrong way. All I had to do was go back to the brokers who were using the current software and saying, we love this. It's better than anything in the marketplace. Yes, we want to help you succeed. Yes, we're going to put some money at this. Yes, you're going to grow. And so the hardest thing, I think, first of all, was building the software. Then it was fundraising. And I think now what's going to happen in 2025 with our deal flow, the people we're bringing on board, we've got some capital in the bank to help us push that through and push our agenda through for 2025. It's going to be off the hook. But this year has been the hardest because it's pulled you at every single end.
What was the most pleasant surprise? Something you thought was going to be more difficult and wasn't? Like a challenge that you thought was going to be much more difficult, and yet it just was. Everyone says it's hard to do X as a business owner or founder or developer, and yet it clicked.
The thing that has, I don't know if I'm going to answer this in the way that you want, but we have been very fortunate as we stumbled our way along the path, fundraising and building and growing, to actually come across some amazing people. And these amazing people grab you and say, I want to help. How can I help? Or let me help you with this. And some of whether it's the investors that have helped us, we work with the Economic Development Committee out of Cedar Rapids, where there just been these people that have picked you up and said, hey, we think you have something here. We want to help you. Let us use our talents, our connections, and our resources. And that has been the people that you surround yourself are key, but that has been absolutely uplifting and amazing.
So humanity isn't doomed, is what you're saying.
I don't think humanity is doomed at all. But I think you got to surround yourself with the right people. And to your point, if you don't like what you're doing and you go to work every day and everybody complains about what they're doing and you listen to that, or you surround yourself with people who are positive go-getters, who want to help lift each other up, it's a whole different mindset.
And I think that's also where the hustle comes in that you can decide. Nobody can tell you the effort or where your hustle should be focused. And I've said many times before on the podcast that different people hustle different ways and different people define hustle different ways. And for certain people, getting up early in the morning is easy. And for certain people, staying up late at night is easy. And as long as a person sets their goals, defines their hustle, and puts their best foot forward, they'll see the success. And by the way, part of that is surrounding yourself with the right people, because it is very easy to find miserable people in the world.
Yep.
The worst kind of yes men and women are the yes men and women of doom.
So here's something interesting that my wife and I did recently. So when we had Thams Agency and ModAdvisor and the kids were homeschooled, we always knew what we were doing. Like we always had a plan, we had a curriculum, things that we were teaching them, and they've all gone. We've had a new grandkid this year. We've been out fundraising. My wife owns a business. And it's just like for the last 18 months, we felt like we're falling into this routine. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what we're doing. We're hustling, but like, are we hustling in the right direction? And we came to an idea where we sat down and we said, let's have a goal planning day. We need to talk and figure out our life. What does it look like in 3 years and 5 years? And we spent a whole Saturday. We talked about her business and her goals for this year. I know what they are. We talked about my business and my goals. We talked about family goals. How many times are we going to make the trip to Ohio, to Chicago? How many times are we going to see our kids? And we penciled that in for the year.
Well, we're hoping that Chicago finds a guy, settles down, and moves back to Iowa. I'm just saying, that's this. I know she's listening. What's up, Haley? We're poking the bear here. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not. Chicago's great to visit, but I'd much rather have Haley back in the Des Moines area.
Oh God, I think I'm going to text her right now, or when we get off, saying like you're going to hate everything about this episode.
Maybe I should just send her a picture of this. How about that?
Yeah, no, she knows this is okay. But sorry, so I interrupted you. So you were saying that you guys have spent the time kind of really.
We're just trying to focus our hustle.
And and I talk about redefining your hustle. I say the most important thing that a person can do is say, like, one of the things that I joke about, but it's actually very serious, is my wife hustles much more than I do. I'm the keep hustling guy. I'm the guy who keep hustling on his license plate and at my risk and all that. My wife, we have 5 kids, 13 and under. We had 5 kids, 12 and under, under 12 at a certain point. Like the average guru, billionaire, business person would say that my wife, at a certain point, she works part-time or whatever, because she hustles less. Let me tell you something that I would not switch with. Her day. And it's really bad when I'm like dozing in my chair and she like calls me and I miss the call or text me and I have to like say that I was awake, even though I was like dozing in my chair with the door closed. But whatever, that's not for now. She probably won't listen to this episode anyway. But I think that that's, if people just redefine their hustle, figure out what they want to do, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And by the way, equally as important, if it's not going in the right direction, pivoting that. Mm-hmm. That's not failure. That's redefining hustle. Then everybody's better. The family's better. The relationships are better. So I love that.
So I just texted Haley a photo. She said, "Yay! Oh my God, yay!"
So I'm glad we did this. This is fun. By the way, I think everyone should check out. And if you're most of our listeners in the insurance industry, there are some that are out. Check out ModAdvisor. See what Todd's building. It's fun. It's actual like real technology. So, gosh, the insurance business is so great. And this is a good time to pitch it. If you're looking for an industry to switch your career to or to switch to, find something in the insurance industry. We have so many jobs and things that, as you know, Todd is in the tech space. I'm an agent. He was an agent, things like that.
Oh my gosh.
So I think there's so much opportunity there. But anyway, we're running low on time. Todd, as you know, we end every episode by asking our guests to leave us with their favorite motivational, inspirational quote and what it means to them in their hustle. So again, I'm going to say thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for finally coming on. Thank you for supporting Haley and her helping us build our business and our brand. And the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, Aaron, thank you for supporting Haley and helping her build her business. I do listen to your podcast, and I know you end this with a quote. Here's the honest truth. So when Haley edits this, she's going to know that I have said something probably her entire life. And this is a quote by me. And then I'll convert it into a real quote. But I've told my kids, life is hard. It's even harder if you're stupid. Don't be stupid. And that has been this overarching theme, like that has become kind of a joke of our family when kids do something stupid or they do something stupid or they kind of elbow each other like, don't be stupid. But it's the truth. Like you have to physically, learn things, be smart about what you do and make the right decisions. And a book that I read recently was Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights, which is a great book if you've read it. I love that guy. Love some of the stuff that he does. And I think with some of the things that have happened in the world lately, like there's a quote that stands out to me that I brought up for this. Maybe you know this one, but he says, life's not fair. It never was. It isn't now, and it won't ever be. And don't fall into this feeling or this trap of feeling like you're a victim. You're not. That goes back to the keep hustling. It's up to you. Only you can choose your path.
And by the way, and I love that. And by the way, ignorance or stupidity is not an excuse. Certainly not in our generation. So
there's a way to find out.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if we could eliminate the phrase, nobody told me. Nobody told me how to build a company. You got to go figure it out. You can have help. Exactly. Nobody told you how to start a podcast and do all this stuff. You had to figure it out.
So I love that.
Yeah.
Todd, really, thank you again for being here.
Aaron, thank you for your time today. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good. And of course, and always, keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. The listeners are the most important part of this show. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more listeners. Plus, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. We have some amazing guests and topics lined up for you, and we don't want you to miss out. And finally, if you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We would love to hear from you to continue the conversation. Thanks again for tuning in and supporting our podcast. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.